Hello, my friends. My name is Ryan Freeman. Welcome to my book review of Aldous Huxley's 1962 novel, Island. It was published 1 year before his death. This was Aldous Huxley's last, final, big work published in his lifetime. It is a novel, and it tells a story. There's a plot. There is a main character who goes through an arc of transformation. However, this novel is not really so much about the plot moving along as it is Huxley exploring various themes that he was very interested in throughout most of his life. So this book review, I will not spoil the plot, even though that won't necessarily spoil the story. I would say that I wouldn't even recommend this novel for people who are looking for a gripping story with lots of psychological twists in characters. Even though that it is a nice story, it's not about the story. And so you might be disappointed if you just really want to get deeply involved in the intricate connections between a variety of different characters and hear a saga or some grand romance. That's not what this novel provides. What this novel provides is a way for Huxley to expostulate and explore themes like death, like sexuality, repressing it and being liberated from repression, psychedelic experiences that lead to transformation of your being, enlightenment, lots of different things. So I'm going to talk about some of this stuff, but let me give you just a brief rundown. I'm not going to spoil what happens in the story, but basically the main character is a cynical British journalist who is haunted by something that happened in his past, but he has a good job working for a newspaper, but he's not really proud of his work. He's just doing it because it makes good money and it affords him his lifestyle. And he's been sent by his boss to go to this remote island in the Indian Ocean. And his boss also has oil interests. And so this guy is supposed to masquerade as a maroon journalist, because that's what he does. He crashes on the island and acts like he's been marooned there. He's supposed to sort of infiltrate, gather intel, and sort of massage the island into preparing for his boss to do some oil contracts and exploit the island for its natural resources. So a cynical journalist on a deceitful mission who is haunted. His heart is not right. And throughout this entire novel, he is interacting with the local people. The local people are happy. They're happy inside. They're at peace. They're humans. I mean, they're not perfect, but what this island is it's a utopia. If you're aware of Aldous Huxley's other work, which was A Brave New World, that was a dystopia. And people were taking soma pills, and people were genetically forced into various careers, and no one really experienced real life. Brave New World was probably Huxley's biggest work. Island is a utopia. These people are using limited technology. The technology serves them. They are not serving technology. They are not dominated by consumerism. They have a good balance between their work life and their fun, and in fact, their work is often fun. Their education is completely different. Huxley explores this utopian civilization through the eyes, I believe his name is Will Farnaby, but forgive me if I'm wrong, this cynical journalist who lands here, and he's learning about this island. And, he has this mission to help his boss exploit the natural resources, the oil. But as he learns about the way these people live, like he stops at a school, he goes to their temple, he goes through a lot of different experiences. He picks up a manuscript of one of the leading founders of the nation on how this island's philosophy of education and life came about. And he's interacting with these people and he's having these private discussions. He's becoming persuaded that these people are a lot more sane than what he has experienced growing up in England and whatever other countries he's traveled to. He mentioned several times about his family, about his father who was abusive and his mother who was way too Christian, and how terrible, how absolutely traumatizing his childhood was. And he looks at these Paulinese, Paula, I think is the name of the island, these islanders, and they have a family system where they're not raised in a nuclear family like mom, dad, brother, and sister. They have a mom, dad, and their immediate siblings, but they're raised sort of as a tribe, and they have all of these surrogate families where they can go and stay. And so even the way the children come into this world is very different. He looks at their education. And how bullies are swiftly discouraged from becoming bullies, because a lot of times, and this was an idea, I forget the exact name of this idea, but it's basically that your temperament is determined by your physical constitution and the shape of your body, that certain body shapes tend to be very built for action and built for aggression. Maybe that's true, I don't know. But these islanders find ways to let the people who are naturally aggressive and naturally need to do action, to chop wood or climb rock walls, or they really care about each person's natural temperament, natural abilities, and cultivate them and help cultivate them towards a life of prospering with their gifts, while at the same time maintaining harmony with the society and island as a whole. Nothing is perfect, but that's one of the things, and is that. And I've always thought it's just absolutely ridiculous, because that in our Western education, at least when I went to school, that so many of us are shoved into these classes together. And some people have no business being in there. They should be working on cars, or they should be out raising hogs. You know, I mean, we have so many different temperaments and natural inclinations. To just shove us all into algebra class just seems ridiculous and a waste of time. So I really like that idea. And a lot of the religious ideas of enlightenment, of moksha, which is sort of the supreme enlightenment, the Buddha, becoming like the Buddha. A lot of it comes from Hinduism and Buddhism. There's Buddhist statues. There's other symbolic structures that come into purview. Their agriculture is done in a way that everything is in harmony, and nothing is being overconsumed. So one of the big, very interesting ideas from Aldous Huxley, and I would love to hear your opinion down in the comments, is that one of the biggest problems facing modern man is overpopulation, because as there's so many more people on this world, there's so many more of us to fight over what resources there are, right? I mean, just so many more people, but the same amount of resources or the same amount of earth, there's going to be problems. And people are less kind to each other as population densities increase, or less friendly to each other. And Huxley was writing about this in his essays, way before this novel ever came out. And and at a time where the Earth probably had maybe only around 3 to 4 billion people. So half or less than half of what we have today. And myself, I would say, I fucking agree. Now, okay, look at. Let me finish though. I agree. I feel that I would rather live on a world that had 2 billion happy people who weren't crowded than a world with, like, who knows what it will be in a few years, 10 billion people where no one can afford a house and labor's really cheap. You know what I mean? I would prefer that. Now, I don't propose to do anything about that. I don't propose that we kill people. I don't propose any of that. So it's just sort of an idea, like aesthetically. I feel that that if our population were under control, our planet would probably be a lot healthier. I'm not an expert, but Huxley did write some very influential and persuasive words about this in an essay I read a long time ago. And in this novel, they talk about how people generally, families, only have like one child or something like that, or there's some way that they do it. Sex, it's not that they're not having sex, but they learn. Then this is a part I disagree with. See, I don't agree with everything with Huxley. They have sort of the retention of semen, sort of like a tantra. They're having a lot of sex, and they have sex very early, and they have sex with different partners. They're having sex very early, but I don't think they're not coming inside. Forgive my crassness. That's what I'm trying to say. Unless they're ready to have babies. Wait, do they maybe do artificial insemination? Oh, yes. Actually, a lot of them, they have sex with their husband and wife, but actually they've refrigerated the semen of like geniuses in art. They say, like, we only get like one genius a generation, so why not have geniuses rather than just my husband's baby? And so they'll do that. There's not a lot of jealousy, you know. See, the thing is with Huxley's ideas, they're so persuasive, but a lot of times I feel I couldn't do that. Like, I'm not going to hold it in. I want to go all the way when I'm making love. And I don't want my wife to have Mozart's baby if it were possible. I mean, I would hope my baby might turn out like Mozart, but I don't want my wife to have Mozart's baby. I want her to have mine. Sorry, my camera just shut off real quickly. Anyways, I think what I was about to say was a lot of Huxley's ideas are extremely logical. They're well thought out. He's explored them well, and I am persuaded. However, sometimes it just doesn't feel right inside. Like, I don't see myself being happy in these situations, like my wife having someone else's child, or just having one kid, or okay, there was a paragraph or two making fun of scooters because, you know, in small developing countries, scooters, mopeds are a very popular way of getting around. And I live in Taiwan, which is developed, and I have a scooter, and I love scooters. And so he's making fun of scooters, and I'm like, Huxley, I love my scooter. But his reasoning, which is, you know, the noise it makes, and I don't even remember the other specifics, but just how much our transportation in modern life actually ruins life. We have to constantly consume more. We have to upgrade. It's bad for the environment. It makes a lot of noise. I agree with, but I still kind of like my scooter. You know, there's just some things like it's a pacifist nation, so I'm not gonna. I don't want to spoil it, but if an army were to invade, they wouldn't fight back. I mean, I believe in pacifism, but I also believe in self-defense. Like, I do not promote war. I do not promote going out and getting in fights. But if someone were to attack me or my loved ones, I do believe that fighting back is the right thing to do. There were two things that struck me, two themes. One was death, and how death is an art. And if anyone knows, Aldous Huxley, I believe, died in a way where he had LSD, and his wife, I think it was his second wife, guided him through sort of a meditation or an experience similar to like the Tibetan, or the guidelines in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So basically there's this idea that you know, we live in this world of multiplicity. You see me, Ryan, you see trees behind me, you are you, but underlying all of this multiplicity of the trillions of objects in the universe, there's a unity. And if you can penetrate into that unity by paying attention and really being aware, whether it's through meditation or just sudden enlightenment or through psychedelics, you will see the clear, bright light. And that when you die, if you can get yourself into that state, you can merge with the pure light rather than going back through the cycles of reincarnation and all of that. I believe the Tibetan Book of the Dead is the book that is sort of the primer on that. And Will Farnaby, I believe that's his name, he goes through a psychedelic experience. They call it the moksha medicine because it's critical part of helping people develop an attitude. Like, how could you be like Jesus, like turn the other cheek, right? Like, you're either Jesus, or maybe you took a lot of psychedelics in a good atmosphere, in a guided way that allowed you to open up and see the Buddha nature in everyone. So killing that person is like killing yourself, and it doesn't matter anyways because it's all the great light. Like it takes some psychedelic experiences to go into these types of realms of being. It's a mystical book. This book will give you a lot of mysticism to contemplate, and I really do recommend it for anyone who has psychedelic experiences because I myself have had many of them, and this book was helping me relive some of those because Huxley does a fantastic job of describing the psychedelic experience. In fact, Huxley is really quite famous as one of the first writers on psychedelic experiences, or at least the first one to really bring it to the public consciousness with his Doors of Perception, which was on his mescaline experiences. So I think if you're into psychedelics, or you've done them, or you're curious what it might be like, reading what happens to the main character towards the end of the book will give you a good idea of what it is like. Heaven and hell, and then both together. I loved it so much because it's true to my experience. And then death, like I said, and all sorts of other topics. Consumerism, being closeted gay, like there's a lot of other things that come up, you know, silly, religious, wacky crusades. There's a lot of other stuff. It wasn't a novel that I had a lot of fun with, okay? I mean, like, I enjoyed it. And it always brought me to a very spiritual, elevated state, you know, because he's describing so many of these mystical concepts through the Polynese and what he's experiencing, that it sort of was a way for me to really have a different experience than my usual drama series or like on Netflix or YouTube. Like, it was a very different experience reading this book. But it wasn't a fun story where I'm just burning through pages. I mean, I was reading a lot during certain sections, but it took me a long time. Thank you for watching this book review. This video took a long time. My name's Ryan Freeman. I'm dripping with sweat. It's very hot in Taiwan. I'm going to take off. Please give me a thumbs up. I will see you later. Write your comments down below. Bye-bye.